So today I'm going to put together another one of the iCraft kits. This particular one is called the Tote Folio Album, and it looks like this. And it says, this set contains one set of 13 pieces each of black and craft cardstock and 8 pieces of tags. This scrapbook can contain 20 photographs. The final size of the scrapbook would be 5 inches by 8 inches. So essentially you're going to get 2 of these out of one kit, which most of their kits are like that. Some even actually have 3. And for $10.99 Canadian, I think you can't beat the price. Now let's just take a look at the back before we open this up. And here on the back we have a diagram of all of the pieces with their measurements. I have come to realize that at times these particular dimensions are not exactly what you get in the package. So if you're going to cut out background papers for your tote, you should actually measure what each of those sections is. It also says it's got DIY instructions included. This is something they're starting to do in most of their kits, which is really great. And here is just some smaller pictures showing you the outside and the inside, what it looks like when it's all opened up. Okay, so let's open the package up and take a look at what we have. Okay, the box is empty. So here are our instructions and here are our kits in black and in craft. So I think for the sake of this video today, I'm going to work only with one of these. And I think I will work with the black. So we'll sort out the pieces that go with the black. So all the black pieces, all the craft pieces, looks like there's little perforations here, so maybe it will explain what those are for. And these must be the inside pages. I've done enough of these kits now to know what the pieces might look like. And those are pages as well. And that's craft piece, black piece, craft piece, black piece. Okay, so I'll work on the black and I'll save the craft for later. Now, I always like to try and put one of these together, since there's multiples, before I start getting into the more serious job of embellishing and decorating it. And here are our instructions. So I also like to mark on here what each of these pieces are. So let's see. So they say there's a big piece here that's the base, and it's got flaps on the side. So this must be the base, and they call that base 1. And then another piece here with a flap on this side, base 2. Now, of course, I'm writing these in white pen so you can see it, but those will get covered up with background paper, so I'm not worried about that. There's this little piece here, right there, flap 3. Then we have the pages themselves, and there should be 8 of these. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, okay, there are, and I think it's pretty obvious that these are the pages, so I don't think I need to write that information down. Just get them all in here in the right way. Okay, and then we have all these little pieces, and let's see, this is called the belt 4. there's a tag, and there's a round tag. So there are two of these black tags. Okay, they only show one. Then there's these, looks like little flaps. I think they go on the outside to hold it together. And then this little piece here, which we guess we'll figure that out because they don't call it anything. Okay, but those are a minor concern because they're just embellishments in themselves. Okay, put those over to the side. And now let's look at this. Attach base 1 to flap 3. So base 1, flap 3. And it looks like it's going to be attached this way. Again, I've mentioned this in previous videos. They do this all on the craft when they take their pictures, and you cannot see the score lines very clearly. It is not very well photographed. Okay, so this piece, is there a score line on here? There is not a score line on here. It looks like this piece is going right very faintly I can see the little line here, and that's supposed to go, it looks like it's going right up. No, I don't think it is. Okay. You would think this would be simple. Oh, okay. So they're putting this, I guess we should score this then, or fold it. So get out my bone folder. Let's fold these flaps in. And fold this one this way. And while I'm at it, I might as well fold them all. It doesn't say so in the instructions, but eventually they're going to have to be folded, so might as well do it now while everything is flat and there isn't anything attached to anything else. Okay. So I think I will use my double-sided tape for this, and according to this flap just goes in right on the edge of that, I guess. Okay, this doesn't make a lot of sense because I've got this big gap here. Okay, let's take a look at the picture of when it's opened. Where's the package? Okay, so basically, this is not helping. Let's jump down a step. Attach base number 2 to the other side of flap 3. This does not make any sense whatsoever. Oh. Okay. They have mislabeled their parts, because you're flipping this around and it's going to the Other side. They want, this should be, they're saying attach base 1, this one, but it's basically base 2 because it's got the smaller flap. So let's just fold all these in. This can be very frustrating. That is why I'm making these videos, to help you out. Now, I did not look up, but I don't think I saw one the last time I was on their YouTube channel, the iCraft YouTube channel. I don't think they had this particular one on there. So, according to the diagram, that's a little smaller than this little piece. It's attached right here. Yep, that's how that works. Okay, so we're going to use some of our double-sided tape. You could use glue if you wished. Yeah, we'll take that off. Now, you've got to line it up with the fold, or the crease is on the edge, and line it up with the edge of that other piece. Now that looks pretty good, and varnish it down. And then this instruction, which is also screwed up, says to attach base 2, well, base 2 is base 1, to the other side of flap 3. And in this diagram, they're showing they're showing it that way, and this piece, no, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, I think it goes that way. Yeah, so let's put our tape on this piece right here. Because I think what we're building here is the actual base, like, well, not the base, but the whole folding over piece. So I'm just going to flip that this way, and no, I'm going to flip it this way and line this piece up with that edge. I think like that. So let's just see, how would this... Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. Fold with the help of creasing. Okay, again, broken English here. Fold with the help of creasing. Okay, well, they're showing these parts. After folding all the borders inside, your base is ready for pages. All the borders. Okay. So we've got all of these folded over. And positioning, I'm just looking at this. It's still okay. That one was going there. So, but this piece does not look like that. But that's got to be the way it goes. Okay, after folding all the borders inside, your base is ready for pages. Attach page 1 to the base as shown. Similarly, repeat the process for the seven others. Okay, so these have a score line. So that must be the hinge. Oops, paper split. I don't like their black cardstock. I find it's very cheap. So where does the page go? Oh, I guess we have to glue all these down. We do. And it looks like every one of these. Okay. Get out some tape. I'm going to use a little narrower tape this time, the 1/4 inch as opposed to the 1/2 inch. Because the 1/2 inch is just a little, just made it on these other flaps. And I don't want any glue from the tape hanging over the edges, because that might cause some grief. You know, I wonder when they do these instructions, whether they have changed the design after they have created the instructions slightly, and that's why the pictures don't necessarily always match up. I suspect that might be the case. I guess this just reinforces the edges, which is probably a good idea, because it doesn't seem that these flaps have any other purpose. Let's make sure they're stuck down well before I pull off the backing. Okay. Yeah, that's got to be the purpose of these little flaps that hang out here, just to reinforce the edges, because it is a tote, and when it's folded up, I think it would give it a little bit more strength. Probably should have folded this one in first and then put that one over the edge, but I don't think it's going to make a lot of difference. I should be giving them a bit of a varnish as well to make sure everything is adhering. Hope I'm in the shot here so you can see what I'm doing. It's difficult to record and work on these things in a limited space to make sure everything's in the camera shot. Okay, varnish these. Okay, so there is essentially, let's get these out of our way. So there's essentially the folio. So if that's the top flap, this comes over. See, I don't think that's right. No, it's not right. They showed that part actually. Wonder if I can take this. This may be tricky. Let's see, use a little spatula thing here. Because that's not right. Good thing this is just the prototype, because I think I'm destroying it. Okay, not too bad. Alright, so let's look at this again. They're showing this piece so if that is the base, then I think okay. So this piece is going to get attached there, and that piece is going to get attached down there. Okay, put some tape on this. This is a little strange. Okay, so I'm putting the tape on this little part that came out from what we were calling base 2. So we have our flap that we attached on this side. Don't worry that this is upside down. And then we have our tape on this little flap, and then we need this tape again here, which I'm going to have to refresh. One thing about using this two-sided tape, you can kind of roll it off just like that. We'll put some fresh tape on. I'll use the wider. Okay, so we have this piece like that, as you see. Okay, so we've got tape on that flap, and I've got tape on this inside flap here, so I need to butt this end right up against here, and then will that one go down? Wait, no. Okay, basically, essentially what we want this to do, to join those pieces like that. Yeah, that would do it, you see, just like that. So let's take this strip off first of all. So this score line on this one has to line up with that score line on that one. And so you see this will close like that. And now just to add security, we've got this flap in here with the tape on it, so we'll just peel that off. And fold that over and varnish it, and I think now we have it together correctly. So if this is the outside flap, let's get the packaging again. Okay, you see they have an outside flap, which would be like this. Then this piece goes up here inside this, and what you essentially have on the outside, that's the spine. I think that needs a bit more of a fold. Yeah, there we go. Look at it from the top here, you can see. Now it's a little bit more narrow on the top than at the bottom, and I'm wondering, yep, but that's what they show in this diagram when you get the pages in it. That's a little wider. Okay, so now putting in the pages. And according to this, they show it with the rounded edge over here, and this is your spine, so they all have to go in here. So you see you've got your spine here. So there's a score line here, a score line here, and I would say what you do is, do we want these on the inside? I guess it doesn't matter. So need some tape. Might need a little bit. That's a 1/4 inch. Better get my 8. It's always good to have a variety of sizes of tape. Let's move some of this stuff out of the way. Those are my pages. We'll put them over here, that over there. Okay, we've got a little bit more space here. Okay, take that off. Now, I don't think it's a good idea to fold these before you put them in, like I did with this one. I think you should leave them unfolded and then fold them after you get them glued in. I think it makes it easier. So if I do this, I'm going to line this edge up with the first score line on the spine, trying to keep it straight. And there, we have our first one in. One down, 7 to go. And now I think I'm crooked. I'm a little crooked, but you can do a little bit of fudging using your score tool, making the paper respond. Okay, so that's first page. Again, I'm a little crooked. So I'm just refolding the page to make it fit, because if the first one is not straight, your other ones are all going to be crooked too. Okay, so let's take another one, and we're not going to fold this on the score line yet. We're just going to get our tape down, peel that off, and now what we're going to do is we're going to butt this up to this page. And I know on the black this is very difficult to see, but we're just going to butt it up, try to keep it straight, varnish it, and now fold it on the score line. And if we need be, adjust it slightly to make sure it's square. There's our second page. So with the rest of these pages, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to put the tape on the flap, I'm going to butt it up against this piece here, then I'm going to fold it and move on. So you don't need to watch me do all of that. I'll do that and come back and show you the end result. Okay, so now I have all the pages in here, and I want to show you something. I made a little mistake. I glued this one down wrong. I had to pull it out. When I pulled it out, it tore up some of the black top section of the cardstock. That's no problem. Now this one I am not going to probably finish anyways in terms of decorating it. I'm saving that for the craft one, but it's easy enough to fix something like this when it's in black. Just take a black magic marker, a Sharpie or whatever, and just go over that, and that blends it in. And I think the last page I have a similar little spot, yeah, right down here, and I'm just going to color it in. Now when I get background papers on it, these won't really be noticeable, but right now I just thought I should fill it in. So according to this, the instructions, this should look like this when you put it on its sides. So flap over, everything lining up, and yes, let's compare. And they're showing it from the side, but I can't show it from the side. But yes, that's the way it looks. Okay, so far so good. So what's next? Step 7, attach tags to flap 3. So they mean these two pieces. Now these have little dots pressed into them. I think that's to make them look like a stitching line. I don't know what I'll do with that when I actually put the one with the papers on it together. And they're saying to glue them on the flap. Let's check the diagram on the box. So essentially these two pieces, which will be very difficult for you to see because it's black on black, just go here. And they're showing holding them in with some brads, which would probably be nice, but for the sake of this being our prototype, I'm not going to attach them with brads. I'm just going to use double-sided tape again. I think I'll use my 1/2 inch. I'm only going to use one piece near the top of each little, I call it a flap, they're calling it a tag. I don't think it matters what you call it, as long as you know what to do with them. Okay, I'm just going to open this up, make it a little easier. And they don't give any exact measurements, but it looks like it's in about 3/4 of an inch from the side, and so let's see if I can line this one up. There we go. Now on the final version of this, I think I would use some brads in this. In fact, I might stick them on first with some glue or with this two-sided tape and then put the brads in it afterwards. Just gives it a little bit more strength. So according to the diagram, ours, when it's closed up, should look like this, and it does. There's my little flaps on the outside. Okay. Then step 8, fold belt 4, here's belt 4, as shown with the help of creasing. Oh, I just love their broken English. Okay, so it looks like these end flaps go in. These go in as well. So this is the handle on the top, as you can see in the next diagram. So basically just this reinforces the handle. I wondered about that, because it's basically just light cardstock, so if you're going to use this as a handle, it needs to be reinforced in some way. Okay, that's how they showed in there, so now I need to put down some tape. For this step, the glue might be better, but for now, since I'm just demoing the basic assembly, I'm just going to use my tape. And I'm using 1/4 inch for this particular one. Just give it a fold over a little bit first, and then peel off our tape from one edge. Fold it down, flip it around, pull the tape off this edge. And let's give it a good varnish. Now I'm thinking, when I do the background papers, and since I probably won't want to leave this as a black handle, rather than trying to fiddle around with trying to put background papers on it, I may just cut out a strip that's the same measurements and just score it the way they have, and that way I don't have to worry about trying to adhere a little tiny strip of paper. Or you could use a little piece of washi tape. I don't know which. We'll see when we come to that. Now it says, attach the belt 4 as shown with the help of creasing. Okay, so there's 2 crease marks here on either end. So it looks like you fold it back, fold the other end back. So I folded these 2 ends back, give a bit of a more secure crease, and then it looks like this has to have a bit of a curve to it, and then you're going to just wonder if you should do it underneath. I almost think underneath would look better, but then you don't get that much pull up. Let's look at the packaging again. Yeah, it's hard to tell, but it does look like it's gone out from either side there, and then they've used another brad in each one to reinforce it. Yeah, I think that's how you do it. So for now, I'm just going to use my tape. Where's my wider tape? This is the 1/2 inch, and it just fits. And I think I put it on the wrong side. No, I didn't. I put it on the right side. Okay, because I don't want that seam to be seen that runs along the length of the handle, or belt as they call it. Okay, peel this off. Now I guess you're just going to eyeball it. And I think I'd like to give this a little bit of a curvature, so I'm just going to take my fingers and sort of work a curve into it. And let's lay this down flat and kind of center it. I guess I'll go in, I'm just guessing here, going in about 1/2 inch from the edge, and I'm trying to center it. Trying to keep it straight. I'm just eyeballing it. I suppose if you want to be very precise, you could measure this off. Ooh, put it in the wrong spot, people. That's not going to work there. It's got to go up there. Okay. Let's see if we can get this off. Okay, that came off not too bad. This is why I show you these. I have not done anything beforehand. If I had, we'd know how to do this. So I'm doing it just like you probably would when you got it out of the package. Okay, we're okay as far as that's concerned there. So it's going to go across there. I probably need more tape. Yep. I'm glad this two-sided tape just rolls right off. It makes life easier when it does that. I'll try this again. Okay, so it's got to go on that little piece up there. Again, go in about 1/2 inch and see if I can line it up. Okay, there's our little handle. You may want to do a little shaping of this. Okay, and then it says step 10, and all it says completed scrapbook. So I guess this is for these tags. So you can take these, and I guess you could probably decorate them any way you want to, and then it looks like what they have done is they've taken a piece of butcher twine and just put it through these loops so they hang off the top of the handle. So let's see, there are some holes in these. It looks like you have to punch out the little piece. Let's get this out. Okay, I'm all thumbs. There we go. And a little round tag. Now, these little pieces, it comes with them, but you know, I think I would be tempted to go into my stash and just pull out, because I know I've got tags like these somewhere there that I could use, and even if they're not exactly the same as this, I could use them rather than fiddling around with trying to decorate these. But for the sake of this, I'm just going to grab some butcher twine. And I'll be right back because I got to go to another part of my craft room to get that. So I found my butcher twine and I just threaded it through all these little tags, and now I can tie it to the handle. At least that's what they're showing in the picture, so I'll just follow their advice. And I don't think it needs to be terribly tight. Let's just give it a little knot here. And let's see. And there goes the clock. Right on time. That might be a little too loose. Actually, I'm just going to tighten this up a little bit. I mean, you want to be able to flip through these in case you put something on them. But I don't want them too loose and dangly. That should be good. Okay. And I can leave a little bit of this off the edge just as a little extra decorative flair. And there we have it. Okay, so there's my tags flipped up there, and inside opens up, and you have lots of real estate for pictures and things like that. So that's the basic assembly of the Tote Folio album. And in our next segment, I'm going to do the background papers. Now for that, I'm going to use the second folio that came in this kit. It's the Craft, and I'm going to pre-cut my decorative pages using my Cricut Maker, as I did on some of my other ones, and then I'll assemble this as I decorate each page, as I put my background papers on each. I think it just make it a little bit easier. So that'll be next time. So in the previous segment, I showed you how to put together the basic album itself without any decorations. And as I told you, in the kit, it comes with 2 versions of the album, or at least they're not versions. They're both the same album, but one's in black cardstock, one is in craft cardstock. So I always use one of them out of the kit as my prototype to figure out all the if, buts, and ands of folding it. And I use the second one, and in some cases, some of the kits come with 3. I use that as my final product. So I've already gone ahead and added my background papers to this. The reason I've done this off camera is because 1, it takes quite a while, and 2, you've already seen me put together the album itself, so you know how it goes together. The reason I put this one together, though, off camera, besides the fact that I had to cut all of my background papers, and I'll talk about that in a minute and how I did that, is that I also wanted to put the papers on before I assembled the album. I thought it would be easier, and it is, but there's a couple of little quirks which I'm going to point out to you now. So as you can see, I used some colorful scrapbooking paper, and the collection that I used, if I find the cover here, bear with me for a second, I can't find the cover. Here it is. This was a paper pad I've had for a long time. Got it for a ridiculously low price, $6.99, which was pretty good. I think I bought it at a surplus store, actually. But it doesn't matter where I got it. I thought I'd use it. And it has some really nice floral papers, and some of them have this foil-like finish to them. So that's what I used for my album backgrounds, or the page backgrounds. And I always like to use one paper pad, because then I know all the papers are coordinated and it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. So I cut all of my background papers to size. I did some measurements, and on the back of the packaging that the Tote album comes in, there are measurements for you, but I find those very unreliable. I measured them myself, subtracted a 1/4 inch from the outside edges, so I'd have a little bit of a border of the craft coming through. And I put those measurements and designed it all in my Cricut Maker, and let my Cricut Maker cut them out for me. Now, you don't have to have a Cricut Maker to do this. You could do it with your paper trimmer. I just like to put it in my Cricut Maker in case sometime in the future I want to do one of these again. I've got all the cuts already in an automated format. After I cut them out, I went around the edges of everything with some Distress Oxide Walnut Stain ink. You could use any color you like. That's the one I used. I just like the distress look, and I also did it to all the edges that are exposed on the basic foundation as well. So it's subtle. You can make it as bold as you wish. I like it to be a little bit more subtle. And so then I just used, for the most part, double-sided tape and placed down all my pieces. And you can see that I've got a little bit of about a 1/4 inch or so of a border all the way around, exposing the foundation. Now, when I did the cover on here and had these 2 little tab pieces, as you remember, I decided that I'd like to keep these as a magnetic closure. So I put a couple of magnets, pretty strong magnets, on these flaps. Now, I could have buried these underneath the paper, except these are fairly thick. show it from the side. You see they're fairly thick, so there would be a bulge, and I really don't mind the fact that they are exposed. Also, it makes it easier for lining them up, so when you click it, they stay. You're not shifting all over your paper. And these are strong magnets, and I suggest you use strong magnets because this is going to get heavy. So on the inside then we have our pages. Just flip it over here. Now this is where I'm going to point out one of my problems. I had forgotten when I put the first album together that they had these flap pieces that were sort of served as reinforcements, and that I should have glued those down, folded them over, glued them down before I put on my background papers, because as you can see I've covered up the edges of my background papers. Now upon looking at this, I don't really mind that right now because that's going to get disguised as I embellish the inside of this album anyways. But if it is a concern to you, then just make sure that as you're putting the album together that these flaps go down first before you put on your background paper, so your background paper will hide all of these. You'll also see here are my pages, and this is what took the time, prepping these, cutting them, going around the edges with the ink, getting the tape on beforehand and putting them in. But it's looking pretty good. And the other thing I find too is these albums, when you first put them together without any background papers, oops, little problem there. Now I use double-sided 1/8 inch tape for these hinges, and I'm thinking maybe I should have used a liquid glue for those because I have a feeling this may present me with a problem later on. But I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. What was I saying? Oh, lost my train of thought. Well, right off the track. But before that happened, this is what took a lot of time. It's just getting these cut out, getting them all inked, because I had ink all the way around the edges, get them glued down to the page, and as I said, I use double-sided tape. You might want to use wet glue for this. Now, depending on the wet glue you use, it could warp your pages. But nevertheless, once you've got, see, that's coming off. So I do have a little problem. So I may have to go over these with a little bit of wet glue to keep them down. But as I said, as you get all of these background papers on, you're strengthening your album. So when you first put it together, it's going to seem a little flimsy, but once you get the paper on it, it's going to stiffen it up. Okay, so basically, that's all there is to it in the decorating it. And I've got the little handle on the top. Now the handle on the top, I forgot about this piece, and the way it comes is you fold this up, and it's just the craft cardstock. So I just used a piece of washi tape. Now the washi tape will not come off because I used a piece of, I think it's 1/2 inch double-sided tape along this. This was flat before I got it curved up, and just laid the washi tape on top of it, because some washi tapes are stickier than others. And since the idea is you hold it by it, I didn't want that peeling off. Also, I glued this down with Gorilla Glue because there's going to be a fair amount of weight here, and you don't want that coming off either. The other thing too is you notice there's a bit of a curve, and I didn't do a really good job of that, but it takes time to work it in. I just used my bone folder to just curve it over top, like you would if you were taking a piece of ribbon, curling ribbon, or taking a strip of paper and you want to give it a curl. You know, just put it over your bone folder and run it through it a couple of times, and that gives you the curve. So overall, I have it all decorated, well, the basic decoration. So the next thing I have to think about is the embellishing. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do on these pages. Now I can see right here I have potential for a pocket, possibly a small pocket here, and another pocket here. But on these pages, I think I'm going to do a combination of spots where there can be journaling cards, so there may be some more pockets. I might do a few little mini fold-out albums like I've done before, where you attach it here and it comes out as an accordion fold, because I do have a fair amount. Let's just close it here. If you look in here, there's a fair amount of room for expansion. So if I put a few of those in, I think it would work all right. Again, I may have to reinforce these pages because I can see that some of them are coming up a little bit, so I may go over those with a little bit of the Gorilla Glue, and that'll just make them secure. So in the next segment, I'm going to get into the final embellishing. So now we've come to the stage where we're going to do the final embellishing. And I've been trying to use up a lot of the pieces that are in my stash. I don't really want to go out and buy new things because you know what happens. You buy more and more and you have more and more in your stash and you never get to the point of when using them up. So I thought these kits would be a good way to use up what I already have in my stash. One of the things that I'll show you in a moment that I did, and I did this with one of the previous albums, was I used one of my Project Life kits. At the stage that I got into Project Life, I was collecting these kits, and I have quite a few of them. This is one of the mini kits, but I also have a lot of the full-size kits, and they have over 600 pieces in them. And I'll never, ever use all of those up. So I'm thinking, how can I incorporate these into some of these iCraft kits to start using them up? And mainly these kits are made up of journaling cards, title cards, and cards to put photos on as backgrounds. So I got out one of these kits and I'm going to show you how I've used it in this particular project. Now you can see I've got my cover done, and on the top I just used some flowers. I love the flowers that iCraft makes. The same company that makes these kits makes these flowers, and they're really nice. They're paper based, but they're very flexible, very moldable, and I just love them, and they're very inexpensive too. You can spend a lot of money on flowers for embellishments, you know, $11.99 up. These run at the most expensive for about $5.99 for a fairly large package of them, as low as $3.99. At least that's what the scrapbooking store I go to is selling them for. Also on this cover, you'll notice that I used a lot of the Tim Holtz wood, or not wood, but word chips. I forget what he calls these. I have a lot of these. And again, this is something that I don't use a lot, so I thought this might make a very interesting cover by creating, I don't know if they call this a word explosion or whatever, but I think it kind of adds to this. And I use them inside the album as well as sort of prompts for whoever would be putting things into this album. Might use it as a title on one of the pages. So I think this turned out pretty good, and I did go around the word chips with some ink as well. And let's open it up. So we know we have our magnets right here, and we'll just open this up. And let's flip it over to the first page, and here we go. So on this inside cover, I debated whether I should put a pocket here or not, but then I thought when it gets closed over, things might drop out of it. So I just put one of those cards from the Project Life on here. I had gone around the card. I did this on all the cards. I went around them with some ink just to give them a shadow effect. And here's one of those Tim Holtz word chips right in here at the beginning. So this is an area where someone could add some journaling, or they could put in a picture or whatever. And throughout this album, I left lots of real estate available for journaling and places to put pictures. So I created a pocket out of one of these cards that came from the Project Life, and these are just a couple of the cards from Project Life, and just drop them right in here. And there's actually room in here to put other things as well. And there is potentially room here to do some more personalized embellishing for whoever would happen to have this album. I did some embellishing, but I've left areas where people could add other items. For example, here on this little spine part, you could easily put something there as well. And this album is thick enough in the way that it's designed that it will hold more 3D elements if you wish. So here I just put a background card and just spruced it up with some wood chips. Now throughout this album you're going to see that I use something else that I have in my stash and I don't use up a lot. Many times I have bought Graphic 45, especially Graphic 45, because I really love Graphic 45, collector's edition of paper sets, and those often come with stickers and with wood embellishments. That's what these little things are that are right here in the corners. So I thought, why not utilize those in the pages of the album? So you'll see in here, I use them as basically holders for cards. So here's a couple of these wood chip pieces. Again, I went around the edges with some ink, and you can see here, they act like a paper clip. They just hold these little journaling cards in here, very snug. I put a little glue at the top and at the bottom of each one of these, just enough to hold it. And I did use Gorilla Glue on this particular glue right here, the Super Glue Clear. I really like this. This really holds things nicely. It dries fairly quickly and it dries clear. And it's great for these kind of embellishments because some glues just won't hold them. So if you flip over the page, you can see other things that I've done. Again, utilizing the Project Life cards and some of Tim Holt's wood chip words. And I just picked whatever grabbed me at the moment. I didn't put a lot of thought into what phrases were here. I was just thinking that these are the type of phrases that you could apply to almost anything that you want to put into the album. Now here I layered the chips on both of these pages, these little wood chip pieces, and to make it into basically a paper clip is what it is. And it holds the cards very nicely in there. Did the same on this side. Oh, and here's one of the problems I told you about before. I find with craft cardstock, if you use double-sided tape, it doesn't always hold it down. I thought I had fixed all of these, but I guess this page I missed, so I will need to go in after I've shown this to you and put some Gorilla Glue on that particular page because it is not holding. One of the pitfalls of working with a variety of different substrates, finding the right glue, the right adhesive to hold everything down. Here again, some more of those wood chips I put on here, pieces, not wood, they're just chipboard. And again, some more of those cards from the Project Life. And I did similarly the same thing here, and I did this throughout the album, and I added some of the words on top. Some of them I just left as, just glued them right down, flat page, but to enhance these ones a little bit, I used some of the iCraft flowers just off on the side. And again, there's room on here for an individual to add other embellishments if they so desired. Some more of these little clips here with the cards. And on the last page, again, one that's fairly blank for a picture, journaling, whatever, some of the wood chips in the corners and some flowers as well, and another pocket with a couple of cards in it as well. So when you're decorating one of these types of albums, don't be afraid to actually go into your stash and just pull out elements that you have in there. Okay, I got a problem here, people. Yeah, I got to fix that hinge on that one. But there we go. Okay. And so there you have it. That's the iCraft Tote Folio Album. Something a little different. You can see the thickness here on the side. And there's still room for expansion. So it will hold quite a bit. So this was a lot of fun to make. A few little frustrations along the way. Again, this craft cardstock that some of these kits come with really is temperamental in the way that it can be held down with glue or adhesive. So as I said before, I found the Gorilla Glue is really the best for this kind of project. So I hope you enjoyed this particular kit, and I will have more of the iCraft kits, because there are more, in future videos.